Hello and welcome to Inside View. I'm your host, Joel Metzger. And a short note before we begin the program today. This will be my final show as your regular host of Inside View. This is my 222nd show, and I'm very proud of the work that I've done here. And I wanted to thank all of my viewers for tuning in and learning more about the county. I also wanted to thank the fantastic studio crew here at Public Access Television under Ed Lark. Without their efforts and volunteerism, none of this would be possible. And I also would like to thank all of the guests who've taken the time out of their lives to come and spend a half an hour with me here in the studio. So thank you again for joining me on all these shows. And I am now proud to introduce David Bowman. He is going to be taking over from me as the new host of Inside View. He is a financial advisor who's had an office for 38 years in Murphy's. David, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much. Thanks for having me here.
Well, I just want to say I'm thrilled that you are able to be the one to take over. I know that this can be a big commitment, and that there's so much to keep up on in order to serve as a good host. So thank you for making the commitment to do that.
Are you feeling a little bit of relief after 222 times?
I am feeling relieved. I feel like it's going to be good to have a good balance with my home, spend a little more time with my wife and all of that. But I will say I'm really going to miss just the interaction with all of these fantastic guests. And I'm excited for you because you're going to meet so many people. You've met a lot of them because you're so active in the community, but it's amazing who comes through this studio. So.
Well, it was a little daunting when asked, and I realized that my view wasn't just on the Highway 4 corridor anymore because my business tends to be kind of focused in that area. But there's some county-wide issues and opportunities. I thought, boy, this will be a great opportunity to learn more about this county that I've called home for over 20 years. And I thought, that's worth it. We have a responsibility to keep learning, regardless of gray hair, and so I'm grateful for the opportunity. Thankful that I got asked, but I have big shoes to fill. So I hope that I can last 222 shows and do it as faithfully and as well as you have.
Well, I appreciate that, David, and thank you again for stepping in.
No problem.
I do want to, in this last show, give our viewers an introduction to you as the new host. And so, as I have asked so many people before, take us all the way back to where you grew up. Where did it all begin?
I grew up in the East Bay area. So I'm 60 years old, grew up in a small little town called Piedmont, a small suburb of Oakland, and grew up there, went to public high school there, and I must have been crazy. I applied to one college. And that would be suicide right now educationally. And I applied to UC Berkeley and somehow got in. So I graduated in 1978 from UC Berkeley with a degree in economics. I'd spent a year abroad, so I had a great experience being in France for a year, my junior year abroad, which is great. That was nice.
Is that why you are still very enamored with everything that is French? Was it that year that did that to you?
Yes, it seeped into my blood, and I'm a big fan of the Tour de France. So my wife is amazed that for 3 weeks in a row I'll get up at 5 in the morning to watch it live. I don't want it taped. I want to see it live. So yeah, the Francophile thing got into my blood early on. And went right into business. So I've been with the same company for 38 years. Tomorrow will be my 38th anniversary of the company. So with an econ major, I went into financial services. I went into the life insurance business, and it was that practice that I moved here. Actually, it wasn't 38 years all in Murphy's, 38 years with my company, and moved here about 22 years ago from the Bay Area.
And so Northwestern Mutual from the very beginning?
From the very beginning. I started with them in September 15th in 1978 in their East Bay, Oakland office. We called it a general agency. Was there for about 5 years, then actually went to our home office in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Now that's a shock if you grew up in the Bay Area. The joke was you'd put your milk in the refrigerator in the winter so that it wouldn't freeze if you kept it out on your kitchen counter.
Maybe it's just me being a California boy, but that sounds terrible. That would be tough.
From a personal point of view, it was terrible. Our second child was born there, Lindsay, but she survived. But from a professional point of view, it was an exceptional opportunity because I was in a training program to become we call it general agents, now they're managing partners, but basically to oversee a sales office. And I returned to the Bay Area in '85 and oversaw the greater Bay Area in the East and South Bay, San Jose and Oakland for about 8 years till 1993. And from there moved right to Calaveras County. So living in Pleasanton, commuting to San Jose, which was its own set of challenges.
Let me take you back for a second. You said you only applied to one college. Did you also only apply to one job opportunity after college? Did you do the same thing, or?
When I graduated in '78, I took a second summer to go work in the Tetons. So I'd been a waiter the year before, and I decided to do it because I was unsure what I wanted to do. And in the fall, as operations were shutting down, the national park shuts down after the summer season there. I got an opportunity to lead a youth group back at my old high school, and I sort of needed work. And truth be told, my dad worked for Northwestern Mutual, and he said, well, you need some work, and you probably need health insurance, so why don't you investigate this? And through the encouragement of some other folks, they thought it'd be a good fit, personality-wise. So I won't say I backed into it, but it was another opportunity that brought me back, and I've only worked for that one firm. I didn't interview with any other firm, and I've been with them, like I said, for 38 years tomorrow.
So you're just, you have the perfect record when it comes to stepping out to a big life change. That's awesome.
Well, the big change, the nice thing about a company like Northwestern Mutual is I was in sales, and then I was in management, and then I was a home office officer, and then came out in senior management. And so you can stay with the same firm, but explore a lot of different opportunities. After stepping down as that managing partner in 1993, I just wanted the flexibility to live someplace and work with clients. It was enjoyable and fun and challenging to run an office, but I'd had reps in places like Napa and Monterey that I'd go and see them quarterly, and I'd say, this is the work I want to do again, working with people, be known in a community, to foster deeper relationships without a lot of body count, supervisory responsibility. And but when I first moved to Murphy's and opened my office in '94, that first winter, I thought, this isn't yet or may never be Napa and Monterey. It was awfully small. There were no tasting rooms. On a rainy day, there wasn't a single car parked on Main Street. But that's changed, and it's been a great spot to be in business here for 22 years. 22
years. So that was a watershed moment for you. When you obviously had ascended to a very high level in Northwestern Mutual. I mean, you'd gone out there, you'd come back, you'd worked your way up into senior management and beyond. You said you kind of wanted to get back to the personal with your clients, maybe a smaller office, but that must have been tough for you. So what was it that really pushed you over the edge?
Well, I wanted to go back to being a rep and working with clients rather than being in management. But I had the opportunity to do that and still be in the Bay Area. I'd grown up there. We had a lovely home in Pleasanton. But the commutes that I'd had for probably an hour and a quarter each way, never saw my kids in the winter. I'd leave in the dark. I'd come home in the dark. And I just got this sense that a kinder, gentler life was available where I could stay with the firm, find a smaller, kinder, gentler environment, a spot where I could have my practice and not waste 2.5 hours on the road if possible. And Murphy's was a spot. We knew about Murphy's because my grandparents, my dad's folks, had retired there in 1969, and they'd passed away in 2000 right in there. And as they were in declining health, they'd ask us, I'm sorry, not 2001, 1991. And they'd asked and said, oh, we're in declining health. Does anyone want on our house in Murphy's? And we were living, commuting the Silicon Valley, doing all that. And Murphy's? Who would ever live in Murphy's? I mean, we just passed through on our way to Bear Valley and stop at Murphy's Hotel for dinner. Well, 3 years later, I was living here, and it's like, darn, I should have taken Grandma and Grandpa up on their offer. Their house is literally 100 yards from where my wife and I live now in Murphy's. Yeah. But it was their presence here that got me first familiar with Calaveras County, and it just seemed like a wonderful spot to put down roots.
Yeah, so it sounds like kind of getting a different balance in your life, maybe spending more time with family, and all that kind of played into it. And did you tell me that you first ended up in Bear Valley? That was where you first lived?
Right, so when we were living in the Bay Area, we had a second home. My wife and I, at the time, had bought a cabin in Bear Valley, and it was just fantastic. But when you live in Bear Valley, in the subdivision where they don't plow the roads for 6 or 7 months, what's romantic, at least for us, what was romantic on the weekends, when you come up, they'd plowed your road and your cabin's there. When you wake up in the morning and it snowed 5 feet and you've got to get out of your house and get your kids to school by 8 a.m., for us at least, some of the allure kind of wore off just because it became survival of trying to stay warm and be able to transport yourself. So after about a year and a half, we moved down the hill. I'm fortunate to meet a buddy who's become a good friend, Dan Pinnell. I was on a chairlift with him. He had some land for sale down in Murphy's, and the next thing you know, we bought the land, sold the house in Pleasanton, and then used those proceeds to build a lovely home in Murphy's.
Wow, it's so cool. It's like your grandparents had found the secret of what it's like to live here and kind of tried to share it with you, but it took coming up here to really kind of fully realize that.
Right, and I think there was no way to do it if I was still in a management position. But again, I'm blessed and grateful that the company has the flexibility to have a rep, someone like me, up in what would be considered kind of a remote area. But technology allows me to operate with no compromises with clients and enjoy this wonderful, outdoor. I know you're an outdoor enthusiast, so the wonderful outdoor opportunities and the quality of life and the that lack of commute time, I hope I invest that in time in deepening relationships with friends or more time with my wife. My kids are adults and they don't need me as much now, but I did treasure that time up till them graduating high school, which was probably about 10 or 12 years. I really felt like that was probably the best enhancement of that, of that lifestyle choice, was more time with my kids.
And did they end up going down to Bret Harte High School? Is that where they graduated?
They went to Bret Harte High School, so we moved down the hill and built a home in Murphy's in 1996. Boy, the time goes fast. And both graduated in 00 and 02, both involved in sports. They were soccer players, tennis players, involved in student government. One went on to play college soccer and then graduated from Stanislaus State in 04. That's Jessica. And then Lindsay, my youngest, went to USC and was an accounting major and is now a vice president and controller for a company called Grocery Outlet headquartered in Emeryville. So they're good gals and they've done well. Jessica's actually returned from Europe recently, and she's got the newly opened Murphy's Irish Pub. So it's a pretty cool place for good food and a good tankard of ale.
It's a ton of fun.
You've been there?
Neat environment for sure. I watched some of the basketball playoffs.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, it's really a neat spot. And it's right across the street from my office. So my wife has told me I'm not allowed to be in there like every day. So I don't think I have a monitoring cuff, but I might as well.
I have to say, having an office in downtown Murphy's is just crazy. I mean, how lucky are you to be able to work in such a neat town where people can walk in and stop by? Has that just been really, have you been there in that particular spot for a long time?
I was there. I'm in the Miners Exchange, that's the original name, but in the same complex with the toy store and grounds and Victoria Inn, so I'm back in that area. Those spots kind of just slightly off Main Street, back a driveway, were originally envisioned, I think, by Steve Drammer, the developer, as retail. But they were just that far off Main Street that they ended up being offices. So there's a mortgage company there and a management, retail, or real estate management office, and my office there. It's been great. I mean, I have my auditors come in and my compliance officers. They just can't believe this. It's a social hub there with grounds and Victoria Inn and all that and the restaurants. It's really just an ideal spot. I could technically do my business out of my home, but why would I? Because it's a wonderful spot. It's a great place to go and have meals with clients and friends, and I feel like it puts me at the crossroads of the community, which I enjoy. You can probably tell I'm somewhat gregarious, and so I enjoy that social interaction. I don't work in an office with a lot of other reps like they do in the Bay Area, so I rely on that just to get my social stimulation.
Your fix, yeah. So tell me, over all these years that you've been in Calaveras County, you have been so involved in the community, and we won't be able to talk about everything that you've done, but I mean, seriously, you really have been a big fixture, especially on the Highway 4 corridor. You've done a lot of things over there. Were you that involved, or were you able to be that involved when you were in the Bay Area, or were you so busy with work it was hard to be that involved?
I would say my only outside involvement in the Bay Area was a member of a church there in Pleasanton where my family and I chose to worship. But with the commute and the big responsibilities professionally, there was really no time to do anything else. So along with more time committed to my family, I really felt it was my chance to get involved, and I soon realized the dynamics of a small town that's how you get to know people. And so early on, Jan Drammer, who was the owner of the Red Bud Inn, said, you really ought to join Murphy's Business Association. So I did. Somebody said the Angels Murphy's Rotary Club is a great one. So I think in January 95, I became a member, and was a member for about 8 or 9 years. That was fascinating. So yeah, I hadn't been involved in civic clubs. I hadn't been involved in a lot of things. Soon met the senior pastor of Foothill Community Church, a guy by the name of David Matson, who's still my pastor 20 years later, and so got connected with a good church family. I started emceeing a lot of events.
How did that get going?
Oh, that was crazy. So the Miss Calaveras pageant had been going for many, many years, and the Angels Murphys Rotary Club produced it. Merle Luckin, many people might remember, he was the MC for many, many years. He'd wanted to step down. And one night at a Rotary meeting, I just stood up spontaneously to thank our hosts or something like that. And he burst up and said, "You're the new MC for Miss Calaveras." It's like, what? And within a year, I was the MC. And that was fascinating. And it was great to see gals in gowns on Thursday nights. And by Friday morning, they've got their galoshes on and they're blow drying a wet little chick or a bunny. I just thought the contrast was phenomenal. So and now I MC a lot of events. People, I have a big voice and I'm easy to see because I'm tall. So I tend to MC a lot of events. It's just an opportunity, a natural inclination with needs. I don't look for those opportunities, but I get asked a lot.
And you really don't mind? It's fun for you?
Oh, it's great fun. It's great fun. And I am afraid of some things that I won't admit to you, but one of them is not public speaking or being in front of a microphone. Some people are really freaked out about that. That would not be me.
Well, and it's true. I mean, it seems like most people don't have those gifts. So it's just really cool that you've been able to do that. And it's not just emceeing events that you've done, but you also, like you said, you're involved in these community organizations. Now, I have to mention MACTA because I have a personal connection.
Yes,
but what is MACTA? What is this big acronym anyway?
So I would say that the three things I'm involved now, I'm no longer a member of Rotary, but the three involvements I have besides work, MACTA, Murphys Area Community Tennis Association. It's a 501c3. It's an officially sanctioned community tennis organization with the USTA. We had some wonderful but degrading tennis courts in Murphys behind the old schoolhouse, and they really needed somebody to come in and refurbish those so that we could have a safe, good quality venue to play tennis. And they were falling into disrepair. They looked like grass courts, and they weren't supposed to be grass courts, just the cracks and all. So we formed a nonprofit in the fall of 2010, and by 2011 we secured enough funding, some really generous donors. We've got some great donors, including the Winter Creek Foundation, which has been one of our main funders. And we repaved those tennis courts. We raised almost $50,000, and just had them repainted several weeks ago because after 5 years they needed that. So MACT has been great. I can't play anymore because I have a bad ankle, but my wife Gloria Miller and I were co-founding presidents, and we've got a great board. You're now on that board. You joined us several years ago, so that's been fun. And that's just great to see the next generation. We've got folks teaching clinics and adult clinics, and then the upkeep and maintenance of the courts. It's important to keep develop and grow the game of tennis because it's a lifelong game, unless you have a bad ankle like me. And it's one that, so we feel good about that involvement. Then my wife and I serve on a steering council for the Yosemite Conservancy. It doesn't have so much bearing here, but we can be over in the park in a couple of hours, and we help raise close to $20 million a year to support what we call the margin of excellence in the park. The poor National Park Service gets their budget continually cut, so we bring funding to support programs and projects there so that the national park continues to be the iconic kind of spot that it is. That, and then I play guitar and sing in the choir at Foothill Community Church, and music's a great fun. I've always enjoyed that and love playing a guitar like a lot of other folks. So those are the main three things I'm involved in besides work.
Back to the Yosemite Conservancy again. You just brought, working with Gloria, you brought an event to Murphys just the other day. Tell us a little bit about that, what you brought here.
Right. So on the council, we have responsibilities to serve on committees. I serve on something called strategic projects. We obviously have a responsibility to give generously to the organization, but also, to our knowledge, we'd never had a consciousness raising and a development event in Calaveras County or in this region. A lot of the donors are in the Central Valley, but primarily in the Los Angeles and the San Francisco Bay Area. San Francisco is headquarters. So we just decided, we hatched an idea a number of months ago and ran it past the Conservancy to say, would you like to have a donor event? in Calaveras County. So Monday night, just 2 days ago, at Newsom Harlow Winery, we rented the courtyard there, and we had 45 or 50 existing and prospective donors, and we had an outstanding guy named Greg Stock, who grew up in Murphy's, and local boy made good, as we say. He's the chief geologist for Yosemite National Park, and he gave about a 40-minute presentation that was just fascinating about climate change, about rockfall, and how all that impacts him and how it keeps him really busy. And it was great to see a scientist who communicated so well. He had it. Well, you were there. You have to admit it. It was a phenomenal evening, and we had a great time, and people learned more about the Conservancy.
Yeah, it truly was incredible. And I wouldn't say Yosemite isn't linked to this county, because we're so close, and I think Yosemite has touched many people's lives in Calaveras County, and I know Yosemite is especially meaningful to you. And I actually don't know if I know this story, but how far back is your history with the park?
Well, my father camped there when he was a child with his own folks. So they moved out from Wyoming in about 1930 and camped up in the high country. We didn't spend so much time in Yosemite Valley, but up Tuolumne Meadows, and our favorite spot on earth, probably, even maybe if I had to choose above Calaveras County, is a beautiful spot called Tenaya Lake. So we used to camp there until they closed the campground in the early 1990s. So my fondest memories of growing up, family time, vacation time, was this camping. So it goes back a long time. And that's some of the reason to want to be part of the Conservancy, to help protect and enhance places like that. Our family made a major gift to help with the restoration around Tenaya Lake now, because it's a pretty popular spot, and trying to avoid trampling and to protect wetlands and have good trail markers and things like that. So that's been a great experience, and also reaches back through the generations. It's like honoring a family legacy, and it just happens to be gorgeous too.
I mean, like you said, I don't know if there's a better spot on earth when it comes to just pure beauty, and there's just a sense of kind of awe that you have in the park. And I think that a lot of what the Conservancy does is they try to, you said it's like the margin of excellence, so the Park Service can do only so much, but what are some of these projects that can add to what the Park Service?
So the Park Service, in other words, we have a dialogue with the Park Service. Their entry fees and the funding that comes from the federal government pays for roads and facilities and vault toilets. But as we tell them, our donors don't get excited about buying vault toilets. You'd be scared to think about where the plaque would be placed on that, So we provide things like the bottom of Yosemite Falls was redone in 96 or 97, Olmsted Point, Tunnel View, that iconic view that most of us, when you come out of the Wawona Tunnel, those projects have our thumbprints on it. So our donors are excited about doing that bricks and mortar, but also we support educational opportunities for young people, art, interpretive programs. There's a lot of opportunities to learn from professionals. Even the bear canisters and the permits or the wilderness permits are run by us and funded jointly with the National Park Service. And the bear canisters that you need when you're backpacking, that's a program that we run as well.
Yeah, well, fantastic work. As you said, and I must confess, I did attend that amazing presentation, learned a ton, and I encourage people to find information out.
I've seen your picture on the top of a few mountain peaks over there yourself.
I may have made it to the top of Half Dome a time or two, for sure. So you've been in this community for a long time. You have gone above and beyond when it comes to community involvement, and you have this personality that you're known for, which makes you a good MC and things of that nature. So I'm curious, where does your seemingly abundant energy come from, and your ability to be social and just be so involved? Where does that energy stem from?
I didn't grow up this gregarious. I wasn't shy, but I had a family with 4 kids. You had to fight for your opportunity to speak. There was always a high energy family. I would say it was only maybe even after college, probably by virtue of needing to be a little more gregarious in a sales type position in the financial services. I would say finding my voice. I think it's a family. I think it's nature as well as maybe nurture. I mean, I given opportunities to do it, and so you sort of step up. My friends joke and say I've never met a microphone that I didn't like, but most of the opportunities when I'm by a mic, it's not about me. When I'm doing music, I'm not performing. I'm usually facilitating, worship at church. When I'm emceeing, there's people on the stage, or there's someone, or it's fundraising for a worthy cause, the Doris Barger Golf Tournament, or the Golden Health Awards supporting the hospital, something like that. So I think I'm comfortable being exuberant and being out there when it's for some other purpose greater than myself. Does that make sense?
That makes perfect sense. And now these gifts that you have, you're going to be using for Inside View, and so I know that this is going to be a new experience for you and all of that. But I know you kind of touched on this, but what was it that made you decide to, okay, I'm going to be the next host, I'm going to commit to that, and what are you kind of hoping to find as you do this show?
Well, I want to learn. Again, my pastor David Mattson said once years ago in a sermon, he said, one of our main responsibilities as humans is to learn. And I remember that's not typically something you might hear out of a pastor's mouth. And I thought, so it just, when Ed asked me, because you were unfortunately stepping down, I ran it past Gloria, my wife, and I said, does this make sense? I don't have to do it every month. It's a little less frequent than that, or every week, I should say. And it just made sense. It just made sense that I'm curious. I'm naturally curious. I know a fair amount about the county, but I want to learn more. We're in volatile times politically, financially, and it just seemed like an opportunity for not only me from a selfish point of view to learn more, but to just be able to facilitate the growth and development and enhancement of life in Calaveras County. It just seemed like a natural fit. And my wife agreed. I wouldn't have done it unless she would have agreed. But she said, oh yeah, why not? And it's like, I couldn't come up with a reason why not.
Absolutely, and we only have about a minute left, but you got to give us just a little bit of a snippet about Gloria, your talented and incredibly capable wife.
She's great. We've been married 10 years, coming up in about a month. For the last couple of years, people have wondered, some people, are you still married? Her former employer, a children's charity back in Chattanooga, Tennessee, asked her to come back and raise almost $6 million, which she has done so. She's coming back in a few months, so I will welcome her back full time. We've been commuting back and forth. So sell your Southwest Airlines and your Delta Airlines stock, because travel is going down between Chattanooga, Tennessee and Murphy's, California.
Well, you two are an amazing partnership, and just as you're involved, Gloria is incredibly involved as well. And I must say, we're all very excited to have her back full time and see you two in action, because it really is, you guys do so much for the community, and we thank you for that. We really do. Oh,
it's my pleasure. She's a great partner, a great wife, and Murphy's feels more like a home. Even though I lived here for 20 years before we met, Murphy's feels more like home when she's here.
Absolutely. Well, David, I wish you all the best of luck taking over the show. I'm so pleased that you are willing to step
Congratulations on your long tenure.
Well, thank you. And so have fun with it.
I shall indeed.
Okay.
And we'll stay in touch.
Oh, yeah, I think so.
Good.
And thank you for joining me on 222 episodes of Inside View, and I will miss you all, and I wish you all well. I'm your host, Joel Metzger, and I'll see you not next time. Goodbye.